Rev up your engines! Now, sure, lots of people don't want to have a cookie cutter car that looks like everybody else, and maybe you want a car that's easier to find in the parking lot, but you really don't want to have a car that's been modified illegally that can end sending you to jail. Now, lifted trucks are a big thing in the United States. A lot of guys do it. But before you start lifting them way up in the air, you might want to check some of your local regulations, because lifting them too high makes them handle poorly, makes them easier to roll over, they get in more accidents, and in some states, it's illegal. For example, if you raise a car more than 22 inches in Florida or Ohio, they can give you a ticket and force you to put it back. And if it's a truck in those same states, you can't lift them more than 26 inches. And take a state like Indiana, there you can't raise the bumper level more than 3 inches. They're designed for safety, and you can't raise them more than 3 inches or you're breaking the law. And if you live in the great state of California, body lift is only allowed 5 inches maximum. And take California again, they have maximum frame heights, the highest that the frame can be, based on the weight of the vehicle. If you have a 4,500 gross weight vehicle, the maximum height you can raise them is 27 inches. If you have a 7,500 gross weight vehicle, the maximum is 30 inches. So basically they're telling you, if you need a parachute to get out of your vehicle, it's illegal. It can't be up there too high. Now the next thing is license plate covers. You can't cover up any of the license plate part. I just got back from Massachusetts. I said to my wife, look at that car in front of us. They had this giant plate. It was advertised in some dealership, and you couldn't even see any of the Massachusetts on the top. You could just see the slogan on the bottom, but you couldn't even read Massachusetts. That was illegal. And of course, one of the popular things in Russia, this thing is called Rugifs. They're electronically controlled license plates with a flip of the switch. You can't even read them at all. Of course, those are totally illegal. You get caught with one of those, they're certainly going to throw you in a slammer if they see you turning it on and you're trying to get away with no readable license at all. Now, the next is window tints. This is the Toyota factory window tint. As you can see, you can still see inside to see who's in there. Again, this varies by state law. Here in Texas, they have a certain amount of darkness, and I see it bypassed all the time. I live here in Texas. If I was a cop, I would pull over every car I saw at night with heavily tinted windows. People could be behind there with a gun coming after you. Those people need to be taken off the road having garbage like that. Some states go even further. Illinois prohibits side or front window tinting unless you have a medical condition. They're obviously worried about the police are going to not be able to see what's going on. I guess maybe Chicago with the Chicago mob, they wouldn't be able to see in those cars when they're pulling them over. Now in more liberal states like Texas, the police often do have window tinting devices to see how much tint is in. I can't stand it when some idiot cuts me off and I pull up and I can't even see who's driving the vehicle. It's gotten to a point of ridiculousness here. Now New York State is even more restrictive. They have a law that says 70% of the light has to be able to pass through those windows. I've seen them where it's probably 10 or 12% here in Texas. So now, just like laws have against lifting them too high, many states have laws against lowering them too low. For example, Georgia only allows a maximum lowering of 2 inches of either the bumper or the frame. But California has no laws at all about lowering. And neither does Arizona. I guess that's low rider's paradise there. And another modification that gets you in trouble with the law is booming sound system. You hear them going down the road, boom, boom, boom. Well, that's illegal in many places. In many states, cops can give you a ticket depending on how loud it is from a certain distance. They have decibel limits to how loud you can have those things turned up. Now, Florida used to have one, but in 2012, the Supreme Court cut that law down. Though, if you have local laws banning it, the local police can still give tickets for making too much noise. Disturbing the peace, I guess. Pennsylvania has a law that says you can't play your stereo at an unusual volume, and they're not supposed to be able to hear it 50 feet away. There they can call it disorderly conduct. And from what I can figure, listening to this stuff, I think it should be a law against bad taste too, because a lot of this music is really crap. Now, strangely enough, radar detectors are legal in every state except Virginia and Washington, D.C., for normal drivers. But interestingly enough, it's illegal for commercial drivers to have them. So all the big truck drivers, they're not legally allowed to have radar detectors. And even if it's legal, some states have laws that say if you mount it on the dashboard that's obstructing your vision, And that's against the law too, so you really want to check the local laws when you put the stuff in. I know when I lived in Canada, it was illegal to have any radar detectors, and if you had them at the border driving in, they'd take them from you and then give them back when you came back over the border, because they didn't want people cheating the speed tickets. Now, radar jammers are totally illegal. You get caught with one of those, it's up to $50,000 fine or 5 years in jail. And anyways, the FCC says radar jammers have been illegal since 1996. So they can go back to you federally anywhere. If you even buying one of these things, you're not even supposed to be able to sell them in stores, and they can't advertise them either. Now, one of the biggest modifications people do are exhaust modifications. And most places have laws for that too, about how loud they can be. And this is more than a double-edged sword. It's probably a triple-edged sword. You modify your exhaust. Generally, you're also modifying your car's anti-pollution system, and you're breaking federal law. So in most places, you can't take the catalytic converters off and run straight pipes. And if you want it from a mechanic standpoint, mine, you can't just go and bolt new stuff on. Things are more complicated than when I was a young mechanic. When I was a young mechanic, sure, you could put on straight pipes. Worst came to worst, you could rejet the carburetor with a $10 kit. But today, it's all fuel injected. If you're going to do that, put it on a dyno. They'd have to retune it. They'd have to remap the computer software. To make it run right, it would be a gigantic pain in the rear end. And then you still might be breaking the law by making too much noise. Now, the next mod that gets you trouble is neon lights. Yeah, you know, in the 2000s up, people started putting neon lights on everything, and they look cool at night. The problem is it can become distracting to other vehicles. There's various local laws for that stuff that you got to check before you start throwing that stuff on. For example, blue and red lights are banned in most states. You can't have blue or red neon lights on because it confuses with safety vehicles. Now, light bars are real handy for off-road vehicles, but you start using those things on road, they can be very illegal unless you cover them up. That's why they got those covers on them. It's more than just to keep dirt off of them. You use those off-road truck lights in traffic at night. They're so bright they can even bounce off oncoming traffic, scatter light everywhere. If you're using those on the road and the cops see you, I guarantee you, you're going to get a gigantic ticket. Now, the last thing I got to talk about is putting nitrous kits in a car, adding nitrous oxide to get more power in a vehicle. And when you turn them on, they get tons of power. That's why most guys that use them, they hide the bottles under the seats or somewhere so the cops can't see them, and they have all the piping hidden under the engine, so even if they pop the hood, they won't see them. So most places, it's extremely illegal to have nitrous setups on a car you're driving on the street. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.